I'm about to be the CC, y'all, of egg costs in this country. I swear to God. Do this.
Okay. Great. Here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hate Spinnerbait, the podcast where we hate spinnerbait, but we love women.
Yes, we do love women. Mm-hmm. I know we've learned this past week, since we've last met up, that not all women love themselves or other women. A lot of men certainly don't give a shit about us, but we love you, ladies.
We love you. We're here for you. Yikes, huh?
Yikes. I was going to say, it's bad when we started this podcast, like a sad Taylor Swift song, i.e. with a sigh. We're like, okay. Were you sent by someone? But truly, were you? Who sent by someone who wanted me dead? Because that's kind of what I feel like right now.
Literally.
Ooh, it's been a time. It's been a time. Since we last met up, still full of hope, making friendship bracelets. I'm gonna still be making them, but the hope has diminished a little bit.
The hope has dwindled. It's taken a bit of a nosedive, but we're finding our sea legs, I guess, and we're gonna figure it out. Here we go. In other news, Bethany's wire has gotten actually worse somehow. Well, I guess that's what happens. It gets worse.
Okay. All right. It was like I could hear it like clicked and I couldn't hear you anymore. Okay.
Oh no.
No, is this not working?
No, it's there you go. You're good. I can hear you.
Oh God. All right, everyone. I just, much like I probably can't do too much in the next 4 years in this country, move, breathe, think too much, but we'll be fine as long as I don't do any of those things. What stage of grief are you currently in, Michael?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Acceptance, I guess.
Yeah, it's cycle. It just like grief. It is a cycle. I've gone through a lot. Denial, anger, depression, lots of depression mostly. Acceptance, me being like, not to be like the most millennial person on Maine, y'all. Let me tell y'all something I had to do 2 days after the election to like get myself to go into work and have to like deal with people and have to deal with like Republican men and like, is, well, first of all, I've just, for about a week, well, not even because I hasn't been a full week yet, but for the first 2 days, I was like, Christmas is canceled. Everything is canceled. Let me just sit here in my depression. And then I was like, fuck you guys. You get to take that from me. And I'm going to spread cheer and joy. And like, I'm going to just like find happiness where I can. And so now I've completely swung in the other direction, which is like full on, like I have my Christmas cup. I have my Christmas shirt. Like I am fully Christmasing, but also in the most millennial moment that has ever millennialed, I made myself a little playlist to get myself to work the other day because I needed it, which did include, wait for it, y'all, and did include the Steve Aoki, like, dubstep remix of the Black Parade because I needed to listen to it. I was like, we will carry on, Sharon. We will. And I was like, as I'm driving to work, like literally getting in my feels listening to this song, I was like, am I the most millennial person who has ever existed in being a millennial person? Which also, not to get on my soapbox for a hot damn minute, but I'm gonna, because yes, y'all are just gonna have to let us like get out our feelings the first few minutes. Michael Ann's breakdown of like this episode was, we're going to discuss what it means to be an American or woman in America right now. We're going to get out those feelings and then we're going to discuss the chapters. And I was like, yes, perfect outline. 10 out of 10. Sign me up. But not to get on my soapbox about why we're the greatest generation. But screw y'all. You can come for us and make fun of us for wearing our skinny jeans or whatever. But at least we have mother effing empathy because millennials out here still screwed things up. I'm not going to say we didn't screw the pooch a little bit, but overall, our millennial men were definitely doing better than you little Gen Z boys who are clearly still boys and haven't grown into men yet, because what the actual fuck. But anyway, so I was like, okay, whatever, come for me. But at least we grew up watching shows that taught us empathy, and I guess my chem or something.
Dude, it's crazy. It's not crazy to me, but Andrew was like, I am one of 38% of white men who voted for Kamala. And I'm like, yeah, wow. I am one of like 45 white women, 45% white women. So
that's not sad. Isn't that so sad? Again, of voting, people that actually voted, to be clear. Because some people were like, well, really, it's still only 25% of the American population. And I was like, that's still too much, though. And I was like, also, all the percentage who didn't care enough to vote is like just as much of a slap in the face, I think. That you like didn't think that like you needed to vote on this, just as much of a slap in the face. So yeah, I'm not pointing, blame at anyone. But if I were Gen Z men, and I'm just kidding. The people who didn't vote. No, I'm just kidding. There's blame to go around everywhere. The demographics just keep letting us know. So much blame. All the blame. But yeah, I know I'm not the only one, but I like literally the next day as I just like sat there and I entered the anger portion of my after election thoughts, I was like, I'm going to be that petty ass mother effer who is tracking the gas prices and the price of egg and milk. Like, you best believe a full on Excel sheet. I'm about to be the CC, y'all, of egg costs in this country. I swear to God. But I don't even like Excel. I barely know how to use it. But you best believe I am breaking this out and I'm tracking it. And like all the little Republicans like to do when they post their little posts on social media, like 4 years ago, let's see if we're in better shape. Da, 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 da. I'm going to have full receipts, baby. And I'm like, I'm surprised. I guess it was really worth it, wasn't it? Just getting rid of people's human rights and dignity. It's fine. So yeah, you believe I'm going to track it. When I'm asked to go to any event for my Republican in-laws, oh, you best believe I'm be complaining about the gas prices. I'm be like, I would have loved to attend your birthday, but gas is just so expensive right now under this Republican regime. So I can't. So all you little bitches who were like the economy. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Another thing got me like a real riled up the other day. A lot of things obviously have gotten me riled up, clearly, as you can tell. I'm still just going through right here. But this is a post that I just, which again, only Republicans say this. Which I love how, of course, after the election, it's like, why can't we be friends? Or why can't we put these political differences aside? You don't see a single liberal person putting this. Never, ever. It's always Republicans who are like, oh, now that you found out that I thought that the price of eggs was more important than like your rights as a human being, I don't understand why you can't be civil or why we can't be friends. And it's like, you said it, like you just explained, like whatever. Now that you've been outed, basically as a Trumper, you like are upset that we don't want to be friends with you, and it makes no sense. But here's another one. It's a real just one that's just been grating on me that I love to see. People that, and by people I mean Republicans, conservative people that keep posting things like, I wish it was like 9/12/2001 when we were all united and blah, 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 blah. The biggest fuck you, actually, to that. I hate that. Nothing makes me seethe more in anger, because I'm like, let's just actually take a second to think about what you are saying. You wish that we were the day after the deadliest terror attack on this nation's soil, where people, the only thing they were united in was grief, just to be clear. And literally, I'm going to tell you, because I lived it and I was a child. And when you're a child, like, things are always bigger and scarier and whatever. It was a terrifying time. I don't remember it being a yay, happy, united times, whatever. Did people get hella patriotic and weird and start calling shit freedom fries? Yeah. But I don't remember feeling united or feeling great about my country. I remember terror threat alerts on the news every day. I remember anthrax scares everywhere. I remember people like being upset. I literally know people in my actual life that still have PTSD because they were there on 9/11. And that is the biggest slap in the face to me when I see people say something like, I wish we were all like the day. I wish we could be as united as we were the day after 9/11. And I'm like, literally sit and think about what you just said for like a hot damn second and realize how warped that is. That is warped that is something that you wish.
Also, like, who was united?
Yeah. Who's united? Like,
because I'm pretty sure Islamophobia was like,
yes,
majorly on the rise.
The highest, it's like the peak of the highest it's about to ever be. And I was like, we literally declared war.
Yep.
A bunch of more innocent people died because of that. Yeah, Islamophobia was hella on the rise. It's never really completely diminished since then. And that's what you want to go back to, because like I remember like my Muslim friends being very scared to live in this country during that time, and truly it's never really gotten better for them. But I'm glad that you liked it, because we all bought flags. Like I don't, we wore red, white, and blue. I don't like what like what, mind-boggling. That is such a weird, warped, mind-boggling sentiment, and I have seen it posted quite a few times this week, and every time it just makes my blood boil like a little bit more, and I had to get it out. I had to get it out. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, I don't really feel like we felt united then. Just like me, maybe. So I don't know.
Yes. Oh, I changed my life after the election, and here's what happened.
Hit it.
I got deeply scared immediately, deeply terrified of what the future is going to look like here for women. I started a workout program. I have been cooking healthy meals and eating them 3 times a day, every single day. I've been working out every single day. I feel like
you've been coping so well with it. I feel like I was on the opposite end of the spectrum.
I was like, I will not be a Gumby ass motherfucker with no strength who can't like protect myself, or like, I don't know. I was just like, you know, who knows if I even gonna need to protect myself. But I was just like, I need to be strong, and I need to be fit, because I'm scared. Period.
Period, full stop. I am terrified. I saw this TikTok of this lady talking about like, I'm sure like you've probably seen it, or you've seen like it floating around the internet somewhere, of like this weird collective thing that apparently all women did. She's like, I woke up, like I went to bed feeling kind of depressed, but I was like, I'm gonna go to bed like, you know, the red mirage, the blue wave, whatever, like maybe things will be better in the morning. And she's like, and I woke up at like 4 a.m. with just dread in my stomach. And I was like, don't look, because like you could still live a few more moments in that denial that it hadn't happened. And she's like, but you had to know. She's like, and then I looked. And so she was sharing the story, and everyone was commenting like, me too. Which, like, same. Like, I woke up that morning, like, way before my alarm went off. And because I, like, legitimately pretty much couldn't sleep that night. Like, I literally just had, like, a pit in my stomach all night. And I woke up, and I was just, like, devastated. Like, I knew it, though. Like, I already knew that that's what it was going to be, like, as I started going to bed and seeing things. And I was like, I think I'll give myself false hope that, like, it's going to change. But it was just like devastating, like how, and that like he won the popular vote, and like it was just like another nail in the coffin. And like, it's just plain and simple. Like when he is up against an old white man, the old white man will win. But when you put him up against a woman, particularly a woman of color, like they're going to pick him every time. And like, I just was like, I just can't. I mean, like, obviously, I know, like, a lot of you listening can obviously relate to this, but, like, and obviously, I know, Mike, and you can too, but, like, it truly is something that is just, like, hard to put in words. And, like, we were just, like, all meant to, like, carry on that day. Like, that hadn't happened. Like, that people literally just hadn't slapped us all collectively in the face, basically. And yeah, it's been tough. I did not cope with it as well. Or again, I don't think there's like a good or bad way of coping with things, obviously, but like I basically just was like in a massive funk that day. I got home. We kind of talked about recording. I thought about recording, but I started watching the concession speech, and I just was bawling. And I like called my mom, and I like talked to her for like an hour, which I'm again like so grateful that I have a mom who like is like liberal as I am and was as devastated as I am. And like, that was really healing, just like being able to talk to her. And I was just like, I'm just so sad that like, as women, we've been fighting for generations, and we just like can never like crack this last glass ceiling. And I'm so sad that like, you know, these people that fought the good fight first, that fought for our right to vote, that fought for us to get abortion rights, this and the other thing, like, are still having to fight. Like, that is just so depressing to me, that like the fight is never ending. And I was like, and it just like makes you feel so hopeless. And then I will say again, maybe it's listening to My Chemical Romance. I don't know what it was, but a couple days later, I was like, "Fuck you, no!" Like I'm not like that is so disrespectful to me for all of our sisters that have fought so hard for like our generation to give up. And I was like, no, like I still want a better world for our generation. I definitely want a better world for our nieces and our nephews' generations, and whatever. So whether y'all, like it or not, I'm gonna keep fighting. Yes, I don't know. But yeah, it was just so depressing when just like such a qualified candidate loses to someone like him and just like what it means. And again, like also realizing how fortunate that I am that at least my skin is this color. And so I'm privileged in that way. Like, obviously, like we're scared for our rights, but there's so many, loved ones of mine, dear friends, and people like that are going to have it even worse than we are. And that is terrifying. And then feeling so bad and feeling so guilty and like feeling so like mad at white women for sucking so much all the time. And you're like, how do I get through to fellow white? Like, I don't know. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And then that's like knowing I have to go spend the holidays with my in-laws. I'm like, oh, it was a lot. It still is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like so disheartened by the reality that so many people voted a rapist into office. I think that's really what got
Yes.
me to got me to where I'm like on the go, like moving, like working out, like eating right, because that's like, as a sexual assault survivor, it's like
Yeah.
I have a hard time just knowing that my rapist is like out living his normal life, but now we are gonna have like literally a man who was convicted of rape, I'm pretty sure, of a child, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, as our president. And like, yes, people I love and care for deeply voted for this person, this man. And that's just so it's hard to deal with. And what, like, guys, white women, white people,
White people. Hey guys, listen up. This one's for you.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I just can't. Like I can, but I can't.
I can, but I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I woke up and I woke up at 4 a.m. I did the 4 a.m. thing, checked my phone, saw that he won, saw like how much of the country was like pure red. And I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
things are going to change today. And let me tell you something else. I have no patience for men.
Mm.
I don't want to see a man speak around me, except for my husband.
Yes.
And even then,
Exception.
we've had a rough week.
And even then, we were on thin ice. Again, not because, to be clear, everyone, our husbands were the good ones who voted the right way and are liberal, progressive people. But just like, again, even though like they get it, like it's just like,
yeah. And you know what else was, and this might sound like, dramatic or whatever, but like another thing that really scared me right away, like to my bones, was I was like, and again, like I'm in a very healthy marriage.
yes,
My husband is wonderful. But that like knowledge that laws could change so drastically that like we are no longer equals in the home, and he has like
yes.
an extreme power over me, that he wouldn't become one of those guys, but it's still there, like he still
It's
could
just
be.
it's
Like,
just yeah, it's just scary. Like I am, and again, like I have a very wonderful husband and whatever. Not whatever. No, that's obviously very important and a big deal. But
Whatever.
I don't like, I was never like a big marriage girly, to be honest. Like I liked the idea of marriage, but I wasn't a big like wedding girly pop. Like I wasn't someone who was like, I've dreamed of my wedding and this is whatever. I'm so happy that I had a wedding. Like it was amazing. I 10 out of 10, like would never do it again. But 10 out of 10, I'm glad I did it. 10 out of 10, obviously I'm happy that I am married to the partner that I am married to. But if I did not have the rights that I had in a marriage, would have never gotten married. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it would have been like, and again, it's so recent. Like, people really, I don't think, grasp how as a concept, how recent it is in history that like we are equal people in marriage. Like a man and a woman are equal people in marriage. And I could have never gotten married if that wasn't like,
I know.
No, like not having the right to your own money or like the right to do whatever. It's just knowing that choice can be taken away from you, even if you don't need it or want it. Like, I don't need that to get a divorce, but like, it is nice to know that is a thing that is like, I can do that, a no fault divorce as a woman, like it's just, it's just scary. Not knowing like what could and could not be, like what could be taken away from you, and just how scary people are being, and also people just like really
scary.
I don't want to ever come off as, I know there's been like, oh my God, like so many debates where it's like, first of all, also like y'all, like the left does not need to fight with the left. Like this is always what happens. Like, I'm like, do not pit us against each other. Like we are all in agreement. We might be in agreement in different ways, but we are all in agreement. We need to like worry about the others. but the others, But like the other day I went to the grocery store, and obviously living in the South where I live around a lot of minorities, and all of these people just saw that white women voted that man in. And I, like the produce guy at the grocery store the other day, I was like, hey, how are you doing? And I was like, how do I prove that I'm a good person? Like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, like I don't want people to feel uncomfortable around me. Like, and again, like obviously in the grocery store, it's a small interaction, but I was just like, good, how are you today? Like trying to be like the friendliest I've ever been as a white lady, to be like, I'm sorry on behalf of my people. Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard to like, I was like, I don't want people to like feel uncomfortable around me. I'm scared to go out around people. Like, I don't know. It's just, and I know like whatever, like some Republican, which I'm sure no Republican is listening to this podcast because I think we've scared you off a long time ago, would be like, oh, you little libs and your little snowflakes and your safe spaces and whatever. And it's like, no, but literally the day after this happened, people started chanting, your body, my choice. Like, tell me that I'm not supposed to be afraid. Like, it's terrifying. Like, that's a terrifying thing. And like, again, not just scared for me, like scared for all the women in my life, scared for, my nieces who are growing up in this. And it's just like, so disappointing.
Yeah.
So disappointing.
Yes. I think that in regards to like the Gen Z voting more right, it's a sign of how like the manosphere has really taken over like the internet. Like kids have access to like Andrew Tate and his buddies, and like they don't know any better. And like I was talking to my brother about it, and he was like, it's almost impossible to completely monitor what they're doing all the time.
Oh, 100%.
He's like, 100%. So he's like, I do as good as I can, but it's still like, you never really know. And it's awful. Like, we have failed children. We're just continuing to fail children. I'm like
it's so easy for it to like get into their algorithms.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching, there's a columnist in the New York Times, very, very smart guy who I've been following on TikTok for a while now, mostly because I really liked his election coverage stuff. Obviously, he is very liberal. But he was saying, he's like, people like that are not going to find me on the algorithm because like they're looking up, he's like, teenage boys like lifting weights and video games. I mean, obviously, hashtag not all teenage boys, but like, he's like, teenage boys, men in their 20s, they go on TikTok because they want to find funny videos, or they want to find maybe some fellow video gaming nerds or whatever. And then it's the video game to right-wing pipeline. And it's like, it's not even their fault. Like, you fall into this. He's like, I don't know, maybe I need to start making some of these videos where I'm weightlifting. So like I fall into their algorithm, which is sad, but like probably true. Like, and again, like, it's not even like the faults of the problem Well, there's a lot of problems, but this is true. Someone was saying something that it's like our generation is probably the most media literate because we grew up at a time where we were growing up the same time the internet was, and so it was very ingrained in us to like not believe everything you read, and like internet safety, and don't give out too much information on the internet, be anonymous, this, that, the other thing. And that was so ingrained in us. The people that are older than us didn't get that because it was, and again, obviously not everyone, there are a lot of boomers, that are good with technology, but overall as a generalized thing, which I don't like to generalize, but in situations like this, they didn't get that because it was just like, oh, it's this newfangled thing for the kids, and they didn't get taught these lessons. And then same thing, because the internet is something that is it's not a newfangled thing anymore. It's just something that's always been. Poor Gen Z and Gen Alpha is getting screwed with media literacy because it's like their parents are just like, well, it's the internet. Like, of course everyone knows how to use the internet. And it's like, no, they don't. Like, we had to be taught that, and people forget that. Like, media literacy is a really important thing. And so many people like don't have it, and then they look up video game things and end up watching Andrew Tate. Like, this is where we are.
Yeah.
And get radicalized accidentally,
Yeah. It's pretty scary. I do worry a lot for the youth. I worry a lot for young women.
I mean, for instance, we are that. You know what I mean? It's just on the other side. Like, you came into this podcast for Sarah Dessen, and then we're talking for half an hour about the liberal movement. You know what I mean? Like, like it happens. Like, when you share common interests with someone, you tend to go down a certain pipeline, and it's like,
But if you're making content for children,
yeah,
we're not making content for children. This isn't for children. No. If you are a young child listening to this, you go get out of here.
We curse way too much. Don't listen.
No.
Leave. But also, if you are, at least you're falling down a right path. I'm kidding.
At least we're smart.
But at least we're smart. So
yeah, it's crazy. And like, as you said, like, it's tough for us as women, but it's tougher for women who are not white, for people who are not white, for immigrants who wildly voted for Trump for some reason.
Yeah.
Immigrants
men just hate women that much.
I think that's
to tell you.
I think that's really what it comes down to in a lot of cases. But yeah, like, and I saw on TikTok a Black creator was like, white women, like, you're new to this, but this is something that we've had to be dealing with for like forever. And like, oh my God, my brain just moved so fast that I don't even know what I forgot my thought, but she was basically saying like, this is not new for us. Like, this is just another situation. Like, and yeah, I can't imagine. I'm just, my brain is just like fucked up right now, to be honest.
Yeah. And again, I promise we always get a little bit of fuck the patriarchy into our content, so that's not going anywhere. But I promise it won't always be these long diatribes. But I know from hearing from some of our listeners that we're not the only ones going through a tough time. So if you just wanted to sit here and vent with us or be in your feelings, totally understandable. Continue fighting the good fight. I've read a lot of smarter people than I am, right? Lots of really beautiful words about the situation that has really been a comfort to me. And yeah, I guess however you find your comfort and find your hope in the dark times, find it. Because we got to keep fighting the good fight, even if it is just so annoying sometimes and so disappointing. But of all times, now is not the time to, stand down. We definitely have to be more vigilant than ever, and be more vigilant in, looking out for each other and sticking up for your fellow woman in any situation, especially if you are someone who, like myself, is alabaster, pale, ghostly sick, Victorian child pale. your voice might be someone that someone else listens to, unfortunately, sad as it may be, more because you look like them. So fight the good fight out there against other women who look like us to the best that you can. And make sure people aren't turning into complete, like, that's just the most like depressing thing every time that happened last time he won too, is it's just like people think it's an excuse to be able to say whatever they want to say or act however they want to act, because in a sense it is. What are they going to do? A convicted criminal's president, so like but they can't vote. They can't vote in Florida. It's fine. Don't even start on Florida. Oh God, we could be
they can't vote anywhere, I don't think.
Convicted felons anywhere. No, but they can become president. So there you go.
If they're white and rich,
you can get away a lot with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now white people, now is the time to be educating yourself on the world, not just whatever shit went on. Like oh my God. Not just white people history is what I'm trying to say. You need to look into queer and Black and Latino and everyone else. Look at everyone else. It's not, and don't ask them for help. Just find it on your own, because we're millennials and we're smart and we know how to use the internet. And
most of
like in 2016, I think that it was easier for people to claim like an ignorance for, I'm voting for Trump because he's not like regular politicians and blah, blah, blah. But like now it's 2024. So we've had 8 years of him existing in the world. We have 8 years of him saying crazy shit, inappropriate stuff. We have lawsuits, there's so much information out there. Like, you really can't use the excuse of like, that's just how my parents voted. It's like, okay, well, how old are you?
You ever think for yourself?
Yeah, like 18-year-olds, I'm like, you know what? Maybe you just haven't grown.
You haven't gotten out of the house and like figured out who you are and what your beliefs are going to be.
But like older white people our age, like, this is crazy. Like, you gotta know what really happened here. You gotta know what's really happened all over the world. What's still happening to this day. They are now they are now having like incarcerated people work at like McDonald's and stuff, and the state takes like 40% of their income, and it's just like,
that's messed up.
It's time to learn some things, people. Time to go back to school.
Educate yourselves. It's very important. There's a reason that educated people voted more for Kamala, because the more you learn, knowledge is power. The more you realize that obviously she was the right choice and he was not. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, I had way more eloquent things to say about this, but
I know, but my brain is
just tough. Like, I can go on rants, but it's at the end of the day, it's just it fucking sucks, and I'm so tired.
I'm so tired. Find ways out there to make things a little less sucky, I guess, for yourselves as much as you can. I had a nice Friendsgiving this weekend, and that was nice. It was all the girly pops, and we all came together in like solidarity and just all made each other lovely meals, like little potluck kind of situation. And it was just nice to like not think about things for a little bit. It's gonna sound really dumb, but like this weekend, or obviously this whole week, I was like really down. And then on Saturday, I knew that the Gators were gonna lose. But I was like, I need a miracle. Like, someone give me something to believe in right now, And then, like, we didn't. But at least we kept our shutout streak alive. So I was like, okay, I'll take that as a small victory. And then last night, y'all, and again, this is going to sound so dumb. But I'm telling you, like, you really have to find your small victories where you can right now. And, like, this is why people like sports, is because it's, like, it gives you something to root for, like, when, I don't know, the world sucks. And I'm watching the Lions, and the Lions have been doing good. And we're playing Houston, and like that's gonna be tough, but like I think we'll be okay. And we just absolutely are falling apart in the first half. And I was like, not you too, Detroit. Everything has let me down this week. Why? And then I decided I was going to be hopeful, and I was like, it's the first half of the football game. They're going to turn this around. And ding dong dang it if they didn't. And I did enjoy one of the first comments on the post after they won was someone being like, looky there, we did turn Texas blue after all. And I was like, yeah. And literally there was like such great symbolism because Houston was wearing like these god awful all red uniforms last night. So it was so nice for Detroit and their little blue to come in and kick some butt. So yes, so that was much needed. I really was like, I would have been happy with this victory anyways, but this week, I really needed this. So find your Detroit Lions is basically what I'm saying, everyone. Find your little small victories where you can. And just as always, and more now than ever, take care of yourself. It's not even the end of the episode. We're already doing the take care of yourselves plug, but.
And remember that there's a good chance that you don't know more about someone's lived experience than they do.
Amen to that. Yes.
So just remember that. But I guess we should probably start reading now.
I'm not sure what all of that made it to the cut. Michael and I have been like texting each other, but this is the first time that really we have gotten together since this has happened. So also this is just like therapeutic for the two of us.
Yeah.
We just needed to chat about that.
Yeah. It's crazy out there, guys.
So crazy.
At least these 2 chapters weren't too heavy.
Not too heavy, yeah, and not like too long. Some like things that kind of got me a little angry, but in the grand scheme of things,
yeah,
we've read heavier for this novel, and I'm sure we'll read heavier for this novel.
Oh.
So,
yeah,
yes. Okay, before we dive into chapter 8, and again, because we all aged collectively probably like 18 years in a week's span of time, let's just give everyone a little happy reminder of what we have read so far. Our girl Sydney, her brother Peyton, he basically was involved in a DUI. He hit a kid, paralyzed him. He is in jail because obviously that is not cool. But he's a rich white guy, so it's probably fine. But like he'll be fine. But his parents, which is also of course Sydney's parents, mom in particular is like very just like, oh my God, like all about this, and it's consumed her. Her dad's kind of just seems like a Dessen dad who's like sort of like deadbeat anyway, so he's useless. She has left Perkins to go to Jackson, where she has met the Chatham family. Layla in particular is really kind of taking her under her wing right now. Ames is a creeper McCreeper, absolute disgusting person. And our girl Layla came in and kind of swooped in and saved the day and helped our poor girl Sydney from having to like spend a weekend alone with him. And that's where we left off. That's pretty much all you need to know. And chapter 8.
And chapter 8. Chapter 8 opens with her mom reminding her again that she is going to family day at Lincoln prison. And she is not looking forward to it, but she basically is like, I can't say no. Like, this is just what it's going to be. Dad's obviously not going. It says that like he made the first couple trips with her, always returning looking haggard before disappearing into his office. For someone who made his living fixing things, seeing his only son in a situation for which this was not possible couldn't be easy. He talked to Peyton to make sure he had everything he needed, but it doesn't really seem like her dad is really, neither of her parents are really like coming to the reality that like their child is in prison and hurt someone very badly, a child very badly. So, yeah, she says, Dad, it's like with Dad, it's like out of sight, pretending it was out of mind. And that, I mean, go to therapy. You know what I mean? That's another lesson for this.
Yes.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Make your boyfriends go to therapy. Have your husbands go to therapy. Your sons, get them in therapy. Yes. And make sure it's not some creepy religious one.
Yes. Oh, yes, ideally.
Yes. So she's at Fraser Bakery with her old school friends, and they're like, "Oh my God, I've never been to a prison." She's like, "Yeah, no, I know. Most people haven't." And I have a lot of feelings about her former friends after this chapter,
Oh,
after these
yes,
chapters.
same.
So Meredith is like, "Are you scared of seeing other prisoners?" And she says, "This actually had never even occurred to me. Other convicted criminals I could handle. It was my own brother that made me uneasy." She's just like, "I just don't want to go. Like, don't want to see him. I'm angry at him. You know, like I have negative feelings. I don't really want to like make him feel better in prison." Um, but Jen is having a little birthday get together on Friday. So Jen and Margaret, their new friend Margaret, Margaret from Massachusetts, by the way.
Oh, Margaret. Hey, your people.
Yeah, I was reading this and I was like, she is from Massachusetts.
You're like,
She is.
yeah, that's right.
But yeah, she's having a little party and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're gonna love Margaret. She's just like the bee's knees." Um
No bees knees.
she's so funny and she's so smart and she just tips over. Um but she is basically like, "I've changed. Like my friends just don't really understand what I'm going through. Like they can't understand the situation at all, but Lila does. Um, my uneasiness with Ames, how I feel about Peyton. Um, like Rosie didn't go to jail, but still like she had all these drug problems. She lost her like skating career and it was a whole thing. So Layla gets it and she's found people who understand her more than her Jen and Meredith and Margaret. So then she's at the ice rink with Layla, who is very upset with how terrible the french fries are. Oh, yeah, she's basically like, "I'm at the rink where my mom used to bring Peyton and me sometimes." She went to the pizza place after the final bell, and Rosie called and was like basically freaking out because she needed to get to the rink. She needed to a ride, but one of their cars is in the shop and their dad has the other car. And Layla was like, "Tough shit, dude. There's nothing I can do for you." And so our girl, Sydney, was like, "I'll do it. I'll drive her. It's fine. No worries. Let's go."
She's like, anything to avoid my house.
Yes.
Let's go.
Basically. So this is the first time we see the Chatham's house. It is just a few blocks away from Seaside. The houses are small, cluttered with cars, swing sets, and lawn furniture. And they live in a brick ranch with a detached garage. Grass is missing huge patches, and there were several cars in various states of deterioration in their yard. There's also a very faded, very old Happy Holidays flag.
Celebrated always, you know?
Yeah. So they're just, they don't live in the arbors, basically. They're just kind of like lower middle class people.
Yeah.
But behind their house is like an insane thicket? An insane area of woods.
Yeah.
They're like terrifying woods. They're like nightmare woods. And I had nightmare woods behind my house when I was growing up, and it was really freaky. Very freaky. But anyway.
Nightmare woods.
So
I'm not about going in the woods. Freaks me out.
and then there was like one time where so there was like a walking trail like way behind the woods, and there was just like a guy who was just like walking back and forth. Like over and over again.
Just thinking about it. Oh God.
Yes. And me and my mom were like, "What the fuck is going on?" It was crazy. I don't remember what was going on. I don't remember what happened, but I do remember that man. So anyway, so they go up into the house and mom is there. Their house is very neat but cluttered. Framed pictures crowded the Framed pictures crowded the mantle. Standing on the coffee table were little boxes of all varying sizes and material: wood, mother of pearl, shiny chrome. collection of beer steins, aces from a card deck and a picture frame, large couch with a bunch of blankets. And then we have what is their mom's chair. It's recliner. There's 2 low tables next to it. One has a cup and a jumbo size can of nuts and tissues. And the other one's has magazines and remotes and a phone and pills and vitamins. And so that's like their mom's little spot. Rosie is not ready to go. So Lally goes and finds her, and she goes to sit down on the couch. Sydney goes to sit down on the couch and wait, and she tries to push a couple blankets away, and she gets bit by these 3 hideous little dogs that are hiding underneath the Afghan.
Yeah.
They look like the largest one that she picks up has short hair, stubbly gray fur, a bald head, little beady eyes, and the other 2 were also ugly. And
the name of my band. The other 2 were also ugly. We've been the other 2 also ugly. Good night.
Good night, San Francisco. But she's like, what kind are they? And she's like, who knows what kind of dogs these are. They're just overbred freaks of nature. And so then this is when they find out that the Big series, which I'm like thinking that's like the Real Housewives kind of 100%. Situation. She's a huge fan. Their dogs are named after the characters, and they have like a little bonding moment, her and Mrs. Chatham, because Mrs. Chatham loves the Big series as well. She's like, I knew there was a reason I like this girl. And then she says, are you team Rosalie or team Ari?
Yeah, I was like, is that Ari? I couldn't figure out how you say that.
Somebody will tell us. Yes. Don't you worry.
Don't you worry. People love helping our pronunciation of names.
And our facts.
Yes. Y'all, I swear we're smart, but we can't pronounce names apparently.
Yes. Also, like, we know things that we don't say, like, on the show. Yeah. Like,
all the time.
Yeah. We're
so smart.
We're good. Like, we know things. So thank you so much. Anyway, so she's like, I'm team Ari, and Miss Chatham's like, you can stay. They're buddies.
I love that. That's such a like fandom bonding moment where it's like, oh, okay, you're my people. we'll allow it.
Yes, literally. So Arthur fit her in last minute, so they go off to the rink. They're worried about Mom, but she's like, I'm fine. I can spend a couple hours alone. And when they get into the car, Rosie's like, nice car. Obviously, they talk about like the type of car a little bit. And Layla's like, Sydney's doing you a serious favor. Like, say, like, you appreciate it, whatever. And she's like, it's really nothing. Like, I don't want to go home. And then they both are kind of like, what do you mean? And she just says, it's just sort of weird since my brother's been gone, lonely, I guess. Anyway, the point is I'm happy to have something to do. And Rosie appeared to wanting to ask more, but Layla gave her a look that said, shut up.
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions. So anyway, then we're back at the rink, and Layla is talking about how like annoying Rosie is and like how she's like kind of a bitch and blah blah blah. Entitled, like the world owes her. She's always been like that. And Sydney is like, my brother's the same way. I thought it was an only son thing, but maybe it's a firstborn thing too. And she's like, it's just a Rosie thing. So we get kind of a background of how good she was at figure skating and how their family kind of sacrificed all the money that they had for every other thing. Like Layla didn't get braces because they were paying for her Rosie's really expensive like figure skating shit.
Can I just say I love that line? Like this is such a perfect way to like introduce that. She's like, that's Arthur, Layla said when she was saw me watching him, he's the reason I have crooked teeth and always will. Fantastic. First of all, that's a funny line. But second away, that's such a great like kind of show not tell. Like she's gonna get a little bit more into like how expensive it is and like the sacrifices the family has made. And this is another good thing. Like in this chapter, they talk about like they have two cars, but they're both like broken down and not working. And Layla's mentioned before how like her dad is really into cars and like he's kind of like mechanic minded and whatever, even though obviously he works in a pizza place. And I'm not saying that that hobby isn't something he generally enjoys, but I am curious of how much of that became a hobby to him because to save a little money, he started just learning how to fix their own cars, which might be also why they're not always in the best shape because he's working on limited resources. He's not exactly a professional, even though he's clearly probably gotten pretty good at it over the years. But I was like, like all that stuff like fits into place when you realize like, oh yes, like, yeah, if you're someone who's actually going to be like a serious competitive figure skater, that's costing you a lot of money and your family is having to sacrifice like a lot of dough.
Yeah, absolutely. But she was aiming for the Olympics, but she didn't make it further than regionals. She took a job touring with a tour group, which helped her parents out financially. But then that's when she got busted for drugs. She got dropped from the show, and it was kind of like all those years, all that money was for nothing, Layla says. And then Rosie skates onto the rink, and she's obviously just incredible. She's incredible. But Layla's like, she's really nervous. But they do like acknowledge each other. Layla like nods, gives her a little smile. Even though she's mad at Rosie, she's still like Rosie's number one supporter and fan. And she's like, she's been really nervous. She's been working out alone, but this is the first time he's agreed to see her since like the drugs and everything. Layla is like way too nervous to even watch. She's like, I get so nervous. I can't watch competitions. Like I have to distract myself. And then she hands Sydney a video of Rosie twirling in a competition. And it was amazing. Obviously, she starts slowly, her arms spread wide, then began to speed up, pulling them in against her until she was almost a blur. Then, as the tinny, distant music came to a sudden stop, she did as well, striking a pose with her head thrown back. As the crowd applauded and cheered, the sound a thunderous roar, she smiled. And that was the last year she competed. She sees pictures of Mrs. Chatham in better health, posing with Layla and Rosie, and then off to his side was a heavy-set guy in a shapeless sweatshirt and jeans, half cut off by the camera. At first, I assumed he just stumbled into the picture accidentally, but then she realized it's Mac.
Our boy Mac.
Our boy Mac. He used to be a little heftier. He used to have a ton of acne. But he lost 30 pounds. He started eating better and his skin cleared up. And now he's kind of like, as we saw in the beginning, like this crazy health freak, like, making sure he maintains his weight, which is, maybe speaking of men going to therapy. But I mean, like, good for him or like whatever.
Right.
But
like
she's
it's
like,
a good and a bad thing at the same time. Yeah.
Right. It's like, I mean, it's good, but also like, what is the underlying thing here? And we are women who were raised with body issue things. So we're like, sir,
check in on that. Check in on your mental health, Mac. I'm a little worried about you.
Mac, how you doing, buddy?
How you holding up? It's been a lot, right?
Yeah, let's talk. But she says, what made him want to change? And Lila says, wouldn't you? He got sick of being the fat kid. He didn't want to get like made fun of. He'd always been the fat one. I was the cute one. Rosie was talented. And she says, this wasn't news to me, how your entire life could come down to one word and not of your choosing, which is, for him, it was fat. He started hiking and then he jogging and then running, and he still runs every morning at 5:30 a.m., which, wow, ooh. I've started working out, but not at 5:30 a.m.
Yeah, not 5:30. Couldn't be me.
Could not be me. So Arthur's yelling at her because she's not doing too good, and Sydney has to go because she has to go home and have dinner with her family. She's not looking forward to more discussion of the Lincoln's family day. But she did stay long enough to see Rosie do a few spins, stumble around once, and finally earn the slightest of approving smiles from Arthur, the sight of which caused Layla to audibly exhale. She says, sorry, I can't take you home. And Layla says, it's fine. Mac's always somewhere nearby. And so she leaves, and she sees Rosie doing her best jump yet, sticking the landing. And she says, it just seems like the right note to depart on, with everything perfect, at least for a second. I left before I could see anything else.
Oh, yeah. It's not to have it shattered. Yeah, pretty light, pretty breezy chapter. I like a little bit of a look inside the Chathams. I like that she was saying, like, not only do Layla and I, like, you know, have bonded over this other thing, but you kind of see how her life, to a certain extent, is like Sydney's, but she's kind of overshadowed by an elder sibling sort of situation. And that's, I think, the thing that, like, people don't realize. Like, every time you, like, watch these, like, Olympian things, and they're, like, the sacrifices the family made. And it's like, yeah, like, to make your one kid's dream come true, like, not only, like, people always, like, put, like, oh, the sacrifices my parents made. They did. But if you have siblings, like, just to be clear, your poor siblings were also, and I'm not saying that, like, the sibling, and, like, I love the, like, dichotomy of it, right? Like, well, you can tell that, like, Layla holds, like, a little bit of a grudge, mostly because they sacrificed so much, and Rosie threw it all away in her eyes, you know, because of obviously her struggle with addiction. She also is super proud of her sister, and, like, no one is rooting for her more, and she's nervous, and oh my god, I have to go get more fries because I'm so nervous watching her. And it's like both things can be true, you know. And I like that obviously, like, our queen Sarah showed that. And also, like, even in a good family, like, she sees the Chathams and they're almost like something to aspire to. Even in a good family, like, something like that can happen, you know? So, like, it's not just her, like, crappy parents. Like, obviously, I think Mr. and Mrs. Chatham, like, try their best, love their kids equally, whatever. But, like, sometimes, like, you know, it's not always going to be an even thing. Like, someone's going to get the short shaft. Like, you know, you just think about people like Austin Swift sometimes, and you're like, what is your life like?
Fucking good, I bet. I bet his life is good.
Like, his life is real good, but, like, you know, like, when your sister is Taylor Swift, and I'm not saying that he's not happy for her and proud of her and, like, whatever, and, like, isn't living a great life because of her, but, like, growing up, like, your parents moved you to Nashville, like, did this and it had nothing to do with you. Like, it's just wild. It's wild to me. Like, I can't imagine. But you know what? Hey, it all worked out for him in the end. So
It did. Happy for him.
Happy for him. Live your life, man. Live your life. Chapter 9. It is our Jen's birthday. Of course, Jen and Meredith are her, like, old friends from Perkins Day. And, of course, Margaret from Massachusetts. Margaret from Massachusetts.
Is she ever?
She's getting to meet her. So Jen opens the door. She is being loud. Jen is not a loud person. So already red flags are going off for our girl, Sydney. She's like, what the F is going on here? And so Jen's like, oh my God, hey, you're here. You're going to have so much fun. You just have to meet Margaret. Just have to. So she goes in. Our girl Margaret's there with a bottle of rum. She's making pina coladas, which is the most, like, I'm a teenage girl just starting to drink I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I say that with love, because you want to know who loves a pina colada? This girl right here. So, like, I get it, ladies. But anywho, so she's like, oh yeah, like, she's making pina coladas. I'm like, you just have to try hers. And it's like, pina coladas are not hard to make, but okay. And so Margaret's all like, it's the ice. People don't think about that. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I did kind of like this part though, where Sydney's like, where are your parents? And she's like, they aren't here. And Jen jokingly replies, like, no, they're in the living room. Like, I was like, okay, this is the only moment in the chapter I like Jen. She's like, yeah, no, of course they're not here. Like, they're off, and I told them we're doing this and this. And so she tells them they're, you know, going to pizza and watch movies, which of course is what, like, Sydney kind of signed up for. And she's like, we are not doing that. And Margaret, in a very, like, judging way, is like, is that what you want to do? Like, poo-poo. Watching movies is for babies. We're adults who drink pina coladas. Like, it's so that, like, vibe, which, again, is, like, such a thing. Like, There's always like that one girl who like thinks that she's older and cooler and looks down on you for like not, I don't know, like being more advanced at your ripe old age of 16, and you're like, screw you.
But really,
anyhow.
she's just like deeply, deeply insecure and sad.
Yes, to be clear. So like be nice to her, but also like don't, put down your whatever morals.
Don't drink with her.
Don't drink with her though. Like that's not
No.
going to end well for you. You're going to be the one that somehow gets caught and gets in trouble, and she won't. It's a whole thing. But anyhow, so she's like, so of course Sydney is confused. Like this is not what she thought this was going to be. She's very confused and concerned about Jen, because Jen is not a drinker. And of course Jen is like, no, because she's by Margaret and it's her new cool friend. So she's like, oh my God, like stop, Sydney. I've had drinks before. Like this isn't that crazy of a thing. And Sydney's like, okay, that really doesn't seem like you at all. So, she asks what's in it, and Margaret's like, just drink it. Like, it'll help you relax, whatever. And so, of course, Sydney's like, okay, I don't like really feel great about how this is going. Can I just say also in this chapter, Sydney is like a way better friend than I would ever be. Like, just a way better person than I would ever be. I want to make that abundantly clear. So anyways, they're all like, yay, happy birthday, whatever. And so they start drinking. And of course, Margaret's like, now it's a party. And I'm like, well, I hate this girl. So, they've been drinking. Obviously, our girl Sydney has not been drinking as much, nor has Meredith. Margaret and Jen are really sloshing back. And Margaret's trying to talk Jen into texting her crush, essentially. And of course, Jen, who seems like a shy, like nice girl, is like, no, like we like can't do this, whatever. So Margaret kind of like texts him on Jen's behalf. There you go. Got that out there. And she's like, oh my God. He's like coming over. And so Jen's like, oh my God, like you told him we were drinking, like he's coming over because he knows that we were drinking. And she's like, no, you did, remember? And it's a party, right? So like we're cool. It's all cool. We're cool, chill girls. And so Jen, of course, is a little stressed out because she is not that type of a girl who, while her parents are out, is drinking and invites boys over, who knows that there's booze involved and doesn't want to turn into a whole thing. And so she's like, oh my God, like we can't do that. And Margaret's like, no, like it's chill. Like don't even worry about it. Like it's fine or whatever. Meredith is kind of been like giving the side eye to Sydney all night, right? And she's like, I've got a track meet tomorrow. I don't know what that was going on. Like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And so finally, Sydney decides to kind of like speak up, because if Meredith isn't, she will. And she's like, come on, like you don't drink and now you have guys coming over. Like, what's going on here? Like, this isn't you. And so Jen kind of gets defensive and she's like, what's wrong with you tonight? And of course, Sydney's like, me? Like, you're the one who's acting unlike yourself. Like, I'm acting like me. So, of course, Jen, still on her defensive, was like, I'm having fun. It's my birthday. And you're like, blah, blah. And so, Sydney, trying to remind her, is like, yeah, like, I know I'm your best friend. I know when your birthday is. I also know, like, this is not you. Like, what's going on? So, Jen. This is where she says, why are you being such a buzzkill? Honestly, I'm shocked. With your history, I figured you'd be the last person to be so judgy. What the what? Which at least Sydney here is like, excuse me, what history would that be, ma'am, madam? And she's like, oh, she's like, your brother. I mean, I get it. Maybe you think that if I drink, I'll end up in jail too, but I won't. So just calm down, okay? Have your drink, relax. I would have walked the F out of the door just right there, just so we're all clear.
Yeah, I would have been like, enjoy your birthday.
Yep, juices. Bye. Call me when you decide not to be an a-hole. So Sydney says, I don't know what to say to this. She was like a stranger, but with the familiar features and mannerisms I knew as well as my own. I lowered my voice and I said, I can't believe you just brought Peyton into this. She rolls her eyes. Oh, calm down. It's not like it's some big secret. Margaret already knows. Shut the front door. I literally was like, what? Because she says, so Margaret, of course, walks back in there and she's like, Margaret knows what? And Jen's like, oh, like, never mind. And the very next sentence says the next half hour. And I was like, the next half hour? You didn't immediately storm out? Because let me tell you, my ass would have been out of there, like, real hot quick. So I was like, the audacity of Jen. again, Sydney is a better person than I am. So she says that Margaret comes back in. The subject just kind of dropped for the time being because Margaret comes back in and kind of commands attention, which seems to be kind of her MO. And she starts doing this like express makeover to help, Jen out because obviously boys are coming over and it's a boy that she likes. Meredith bails and she's like, yeah, I gotta go. I have my track meet tomorrow. And so, and I also like that she says, I have a meet tomorrow. Meredith said quietly to me, like I was the one who needed a reason. And this is weird. And I was like, Meredith, I like you a little bit more. Jen and Margaret, no. So she's like, yeah, seconded. So Meredith and her had already like switched to water. So she leaves and she asks her if she's staying. And Sydney, again, being a bigger person than I am, says, I don't really want to leave her like this, which I think is honestly like that is a good call. That is being a good friend. When your best friend is intoxicated and guys are coming over and she's with a girl who clearly is like putting her in compromising positions, I think you do need someone there to be the rational person. But just, it's hard sometimes when people are terrible, which Meredith does say, like, you're a good friend, Sydney. And she kind of juices on out of there. And then Margaret is still kind of like working her magic or whatever, her little like express makeover thing. Jen's not looking so good. And so Margaret, of course, is like, oh my God, she'll be fine. Like, we just got to get some food into her. Like, she's fine, whatever. And so just then Jen's going to be sick. Margaret is a big believer, I guess, in the puke and rally because she says a quick puke is like hitting the reset button. And I was like, oh, yes, girls. She's an experienced drinker. She has been partying. She probably should be in therapy. There's definitely some other deep-seated issues. Like Lana's the party animal, high school party animal. I think you'll agree with me on that she probably, this is not her best coping mechanism.
Oh, man. Been there. Done.
Yeah.
I was like, this chick is giving me like 17-year-old Michael and PTSD.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I've been there. I've been in that position. And that is, again, as a girly pop who was not a partier in high school, I did get drunk, obviously, or have been drunk in my life since then. In college, I got drunk a couple of times, and obviously since then, but not obviously too much in my like adult life because it's miserable when you're adult dealing with a hangover. But I definitely had quite a few friends, mostly my guy friends, who were really into the puke and rally. Like they would be on death's door. And then they would just go to the bathroom. They would come back and they were a whole different person. And you're like, I know what happened there.
Yeah, they either puked or did a ton of cocaine.
Yes.
One or the other.
One or the other. And we're rearing to go for round 2 for the rest of the night.
Also, I don't think I was like this annoying of a friend. And I don't think I forced people to drink or anything. Right. But I did drink a lot.
Like, peer pressure-y, which I was like, oh, not a good look.
Yeah. Not a good look. I did drink a lot. I did think that boys were very important.
Yes.
They're not.
They're not. It really turns out big nope on them.
Yeah.
We say it's too happily married to men.
I know.
But overall, again, they're the exception, ladies, not the rule. Overall, men are scum. They're terrible. Absolutely terrible. My father told me that my whole life. He was like, listen, as a man, I'm going to tell you something. All men are scum. Okay. And he used to say, all men are scum, including your father. Like, and again, like my dad is a good person, but that is how you know you're a good person is when even you are like, I am not a perfect person. Like, even I am scum. Like, he's like, I was a teenage boy once. I am scum. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for recognizing. And that was very important lesson to learn as a wee child. Anywho, he was not wrong. Just to say. Also, my dad texted me. Sorry to get back on like the political conversation real quick. Sweet funny tangent. My dad texted me the day after the election and said, so do we storm the Capitol or...
Oh my God.
Which was so funny. And I was like, yeah, that's what you do, right? That's how you can test if you don't like who won the election. So that was great. Bless him for that laugh. That was much needed. Thank you to my mom for listening to me cry on the phone for an hour. And thank you for my dad for that text message. Shout out to both of them for helping in the way that they could. Anywho, So they're like, we should get pizza, blah, blah, blah. She's doing the old puke and rally. And obviously, Sydney is pissed at this point. Like, she is pissed and she has every ding ding right to be right. And so she tells Margaret, she's like, she doesn't drink, just so you know. Like, this is not her. And Margaret's like, her empty glass says otherwise. And she's like, look, when I showed up with the rum, she wasn't protesting. And of course, we've heard from Jen, like, Margaret's so cool. Oh my God, I can't wait to meet. She's so cool. And Sydney sees that. She's like, she probably just like wanted to impress you, like, whatever. And so Margaret's like, oh, I can't read her mind, whatever. So she goes to find Jen, who is in the bathroom, like, huddled over the toilet. She says that she's dying. We've all been there. And I like that she's like, I'm going to die on my birthday, which is really symmetrical, but unfortunate. That's a great one. and that, that kind of is, Sydney's like, I smiled. This was my Jen. And she's like, you're not dying. You're just drunk. Like, you just feel awful. So she kind of like talks her through it. And then, of course, now that Jen is kind of like in the emotional stage of being drunk and realizes that she's been like an absolute shit friend all night, was like, I'm really sorry that I brought up Peyton, like, do you hate me? And so she's like, no, I don't, like, it's like, I don't hate you, and you didn't make me drink, you didn't do anything, like, let me just like help you through this right now, And so Jen surmises correctly. She's like, you don't like Margaret. She said it wasn't a question. And Sydney, like, again, being like very diplomatic, is like, I don't know her. So again, here's Jen kind of singing her praises about how great she is. And she's like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. So she's like, all right, I think I'm gonna, like, she kind of admits to Jen, like, I missed you. And she says she feels kind of terrible saying that while she's currently with her, but like right now Jen isn't being her Jen. So like that, just, I was like, oh man, right in the feels on that. And so Jen's like, I miss you too. And she's like, will you stay tonight? I know you weren't planning to. And Sydney, again, being a good friend, is like, yeah, because again, she doesn't want to like leave her like this alone. So she calls up her mom and is, making sure that she gets the okay. She says, my mom answered on the second ring and she sounded upset. At first, I thought this might be because I was calling so close to curfew and she assumed I was angling for an extension. But I found out soon enough that once again, it had nothing to do with me. Dagger to the heart. God. So yeah, mom breaks the news that she might as well because they won't be visiting Lincoln for family day after all. Apparently her brother has lost his visiting privileges. They've been rescinded, which I was like, oh, he's not doing good things then in prison, probably. Mom is upset. Mom is treating it like it's a high school, not a prison. She's like, I've called, the director of the prison, and I'm trying to find out what's going on. And so Sydney says, not for the first time, I wondered if my mother really understood where Peyton was, which it's like, yep. And again, she has to like be the bigger person. And so she's like, I'm sorry, Mom. I know you're looking forward to that. And of course, her mom was like, yes, oh, I must go on. Tell Jen a happy birthday for me, blah, blah, blah. She just gets off the phone with her. Jen is still back in the bathroom. And the boys have now come over. Of course, she says she knows all of them. She said Chris McMichaels, who had a sister in Peyton's grade. There was Charlie Jarnigan, who also lived in the Arbors, and Huck Webster. Huck Webster. Oh, what a pretentious. Huck Webster voted for Trump, and I will not be convinced otherwise. Ain't no way Huck Webster voted for Kamala Harris. Okay.
Huck Webster wears those belts with whales on them.
Yes, he does. Huck Webster has way more money than I will ever have in my life. And he's a rich white boy and he's living his great, great life. He's the type of person who the day after the election put up the "Your Body, My Choice" like on his Twitter account. I'm calling it right now. So of course they're all there.
Not. Huck, don't do that to us.
Huck, don't disappoint us like that. Huck, I feel watch like the next few chapters. Huck is like this great guy, and I'm totally besmirching his name. I doubt we ever see him again, so I can make him whoever I want him to be. But anywho, so they're all there. She's like, oh, of course, like, all these people, and Margaret's like, oh, I poured you another one, and you've got some catching up to do, and it's just like, oh, Jesus, no. And again, this is the thing when Jen was like, well, knowing your history and Margaret knows or whatever. And it's like, yes, exactly. Like, you know her. Do you think someone like that would be comfortable drinking and getting drunk because she knows what stupid decisions can be made and who's like what lives can change because of that? And you think that that's the person who would be okay with you drinking? Okay. All right. So the boys are like fine, you know. They're like asking about the school. Margaret is not fine. She's over there acting like you're for sure gonna get shanked if you go to Jackson. And it's like, okay. Sydney kind of puts her in her place and is like, no, like it's fine. People aren't fighting all the time. Like it's a perfectly fine school. Like, don't even. And I'm like, yeah, power to the people. Public school, baby. But just then there is a sharp knock on the sorry. I skipped ahead. They decide that the boys are bored. They want to play drinking games. Of course, they go to play quarters. She goes to check on Jen. Jen is like literally passed out on the bathroom floor. And she's like, oh God, we gotta like get her taken care of. There's a knock on the door of the bathroom. And Jen is like super embarrassed. She's like, I don't want, Chris to see me like this. Oh my God, please help me. And she's like, it's fine. I've got you. Like, we just have to get you up the stairs. 1, 2, 3, heave ho. Let's get you going. So they kind of like try to, quietly walk over there. They're also like sitting there flipping coins into a cup. And Jen kind of stops for a minute and is like, oh my God, I feel like I'm about to puke again. She's good. Then they get to the banister, oh God, it's going to happen. And so just then there's literally someone knocking at the front door. And so kind of in a panic, Cindy doesn't know what to do, but she's like, we're right by the door. I'm just going to open the door and like heave ho her into the bushes. And she does. And who is standing there wearing a Seaside Pizza t-shirt? But our boy, Mac Chatham. So there he is. And of course he is hella confused because Jen has just been like thrown into the bushes to puke. And so, of course, as Sydney realizes that it's him, she looks over and is like, hey, what's up? So good. And he's like, you ordered pizza? And she's like, no, not me. People in there. Jen, of course, is still like just absolutely miserable. And she's like, help. And so she's like, excuse me, to Mac as she tries to go like help her drunk friend. And she's like, it's her birthday. She says some like wave explanation. And I like that he's just like, oh, happy birthday. And then a sweet Mac kind of coming to the rescue, like this family seems to be doing for her lately. Helps her out. He just like basically hands her the pizza. He's like, here, hold this for a second. Picks up poor little drunk Jen. Takes her up, upstairs. She says, instead, setting what I did not yet realize would be a precedent. Max surprised me. And I was like, oh my God, foreshadowing. So he's going to just continue being a little sweetie. We love that. So yes, he helps her out. He's like, you don't want the neighbors seeing this. Like, let's get her inside. Of course, then he like feels really embarrassed and is like, oh my God, like you like don't have to help me. Like, it's fine. And he's like, just like, show me which way her room is. Like, lead the way. I'll follow you. It's fine. So he brings her on up there. They like kind of make sure that she's straightened out. And he's like, like she'll be fine. Like, get her a little bucket in case she has to be sick again. Get her, some Tylenol. Like, make sure she drinks the hydrates, whatever. Water, obviously not drinks any more alcohol. And like, she'll be fine. He was like, she just needs to sleep it off. And he says, Sydney, she's fine. And she says, there is something in the way he said this. My name's so familiar. The sentiment so confident and reassuring. That was more touching actually than anything else he'd done so far. Stop. So, again, she like thanks him so much. This is like, this is such a cute, like Sarah Dessen banter, like line here. He says, all pizza guys have this kind of training. It's required. Stop. If I was like 17 and this cute boy who I'd already kind of been crushing on came and helped me with my drunk friend and then said something like that, so wooning all day, every day. Adorable. So she's like, tell her to smile. And she says, I talked to him alone before realizing this was the first time I talked to him alone since the day we'd first met. And I was talking to him, not blushing or stammering. Look at them. So she's like, I should let you go. Like, you're a busy working man. And he's like, actually, this was my last delivery, but my mom and Layla really want food. And you know how Layla is about her french fries. And she's like, oh my God, by all means, yes, we must get you on the road. And of course, as they're like heading out of the door of like upstairs door, like Layla, or not Layla, just said Layla, Jen's door. God, too many character names. They happen to run into Margaret and Chris. Of course, Margaret is with Chris. Is anyone surprised? No. Seems like a Margaret move. And of course, Margaret tries to be like, what the F are you doing to her? And she's like, Sydney, what are you doing? And of course, our girl, Sydney, is like, oh, this is Mac. He's a friend of mine. And we were just checking on Jen, which is what you're up here doing, right? Yes. Tell her off. And she's like, right, of course. Sure, you're not about to go hook up with Chris upstairs. Okay. So she walks downstairs with Mac, and they realize, of course, that he's the pizza guy, and they're like super snobbish about it. Like, how dare you have to work a part-time minimum wage job because we live in the arbors and we don't have to do such things. That's for the peasants. And so they're like a total dick to him, even though he's been nothing but an absolute gentleman. And so I love that Mac looks directly at her and tells her the total. Fantastic. And she's like, money's on the counter in an envelope. Don't overtip. It's not even your money. It's Jen's money and like, or Jen's parents' money. And like, again, like don't overtip the riffraff. Like, Margaret, get me riled up. That exactly tells the kind of person she is. You know who else voted for Trump? Margaret. 100%.
100%.
Without a doubt. So with this, she turns around with Chris, and again, who knows what they're doing? Probably not good things. And Max says, she's nice, friend of yours. And she's like, no, definitely not. So they go downstairs. Huck and Charlie are still there. She finds, the little envelope that Jen's parents had left, and she gives him $25. He hands $5 back. She insists because, again, like he came into a lot, and also just like people were totally looking down on him. And so he's like, Sydney, come on. And she's like, it's the least I can do. He says, I'm not taking your charity. And she's like, it's not my money, technically. And he's like, I don't care. So they kind of are just like in this little war, holding the $5 bill together right there, fingers almost touching. And just then he gets a text from Layla with, where are my fries? With like 18 exclamation marks. And she's like, that's a lot of question marks. And he's like, I told you she's serious. And again, he kind of looks around. Mac, a true gentleman. Mac 100% voted for Kamala Harris because with the AIM situation, he kind of hung back and was like, y'all good here, which exactly is what guys should do. And the girls were like, oh, we're fine. He sees that Huck and Charlie are there. He knows there's been drinking. He knows that like things are kind of sus. And he's like, you gonna be okay here? Yes, that is what you do. You know what else you do, gentlemen? You stick up to your other white boyfriends who are saying shitty things and you go, don't effing say that. That's not cool to say. Just saying, throwing that out there. But she's like, yeah, like I've known them forever. Like it's fine. They're fine. And he's like, okay. And kind of just like slowly kind of backs out. He, leaves or whatever. And she thanks him again. And he's like, no problem. Like I said, as part of the job. So he heads on outstairs. Margaret was doing God knew what with Chris McDaniels. She had 2 more drunk people, but at least there was pizza. So she waves to him. He blinks his brights at her one more time before he drives away. And then she's like, this $5 bill that they just had like this whole, sexual tension over. Of course she wants to keep. But she says, I wasn't one to take things that weren't mine. So I found one in my wallet and put it in the envelope before claiming the original bill as my own. As I folded it carefully, I walked back up to the front door, peering out the empty street. Mac's always somewhere nearby, Layla had told me, but I hadn't realized how true it really was. That night, curled up on the other side of Jen's bed, her soft breathing filling the room, I slept with one hand in my pocket, the bill between my fingers. Each time I woke up, I made sure it was still there. Young love, y'all.
Young love.
Young love. Oh, with a true gentleman. We love to see it.
We love to see it.
Attaboy,
love
Mac.
it. Well, this was kind of a long episode, but take care of yourselves.
Yes.
And we'll be back on Thursday for whatever.
Yeah. We hopefully won't get too crazy.
We will.
We will. Sorry, everyone. Just And tell more of your friends to vote next time, and we won't have to.
Yeah.
Won't have to be in
Educate
the
your friends,
situation.
please.
Educate your friends. Take care of yourselves. We love you all. Women supporting women. Trying times, but we will all get through it together. Much love.
Bye.
Bye.